The news doesn't stop today. This is massive. From Pierre Poilievre's announcement, him moving to Treaty 7 territory, from Ottawa, that he lost his riding, right to Treaty 7, that's actually the territory under treaty dispute with the United States of America. I should say can be under dispute. In fact, Donald J. Trump's already signaled this many, many times. Canadians refuse to look at it. Canadians refuse to look at First Peoples. Treaty 6, they call themselves Confederacy. I can tell you what that Confederacy actually is, where it runs to. Historically, that's also the same Confederacy from the United States of America. I provide the links. I also give absolutely the Iron Confederacy just next door, Saskatchewan. Does both these overlap Alberta? Yes, in fact, mostly Alberta. When you look at the Blackfoot Confederacy, it's huge. Now, when you look at the United States of America, start going across states, I provide you the links. The reserves are massive, massive. They can be seen from space. Not so for any of those same peoples in Canada. In the disputed areas of the American-UK Treaty, of the American-Louisiana Purchase, that they negotiated with UK, that said they had negotiated with all those First Peoples, those counterpart American Indians, part of the same area. President Donald J. Trump has full authority over all treaties at his disposal. Nobody in America can tell him anything. He can wipe those treaties as he sees fit. And in fact, it would not surprise me one bit in all of those Alberta, Saskatchewan territories that in fact go to British Columbia and in fact go all the way to Manitoba. Wouldn't surprise me one bit if Donald J. Trump doesn't reach out to all those chiefs and say, hey, have I got a deal for you? How would you like your reserve expanded 300-fold and I kick all of these squatters off your land? Make a deal with me. Make a deal with me, Donald J. Trump. I want to be honest here, folks. With all of international law, all of that available to read, anybody can read. I've read it all. If I was President Donald J. Trump, that's exactly what I would do. I would go, now that you know that neither the Alberta Premier, none of the secessionists of Alberta, or absolutely Alberta statehood folks have bothered to contact any of the treaty peoples, none whatsoever. In fact, I'm the only one logged to have met with all of them in 2018. Absolutely. I went and met with all of them in 2018. I'm the only Canadian Albertan to do that. And I did independence, and I made those people a promise. I made them a promise. All the chiefs. So yes, at that time, Treaty 7 did have a Grand Chief. Yes, there were Grand Chiefs, but I actually met all reserve chiefs out of 8, 7, and 6. But it goes 8, 6, 7. Doesn't matter. I met them all. And then there's all the 4 and 10 overlap. I met them as well, too. I think I'm the only Canadian, for sure only Albertan, who's ever done that work. I think a prime minister a few decades ago did partially that work. Never finished it, of course. I did all of it for Alberta. And I can tell you, I couldn't win a majority of the First Peoples. I had to make a promise. And I made that promise that I would keep them all together. That's why I do Canada the 51st state. The American reality for all First Peoples gives you so much more than you have now. It actually does all the S's: self-government, self-determination, and absolutely a settlement of the claims. Again, look at my links and look at the tiny Montana. We can go to North Dakota too. Look at those tiny states. Look how much of those states are reserve Indian land. You can see it from outer space. It's so huge. You can't see any of the Canadian reserves and the numbered Indians from outer space. You can't. You can barely make out the Métis in Alberta. Other than that, in Canada, those are the only reserves you can see from space. Now, in the United States, you can see so many from outer space. 155 you can see from outer space. Again, if anyone doesn't believe me, the Iron Confederacy, this is what we're talking about. That could all go back to Donald J. Trump's America. All of those inside the Iron Confederacy can expect land settlements the size of their counterpart, same First Peoples in the United States. So for Saskatchewan, go look at North Dakota. All your reserves will be expanded 300-fold. You'll get real property rights, real water rights, real resource rights, real self-government, real self-determination, and you get your own education, health, and policing. You run all your own systems. You can do any businesses you want. No one in America can restrict you. Not the state, not the United States. That's what would happen. Likely, the Saskatchewan peoples would all encompass North Dakota. In Alberta, you'd be Greater Montana. It would be all Montana taken from Alberta and Saskatchewan, and all the land, all the Canadians in that land removed if those treaty peoples make a settlement. Now, go look, everybody, where Pierre Poilievre is parachuting today. He's parachuting right in to Treaty 7. He's right there to fight a Donald J. Trump narrative with those nations. Now, they spoke out today. They issued a letter 2 days ago, but the news put it in. They put Pierre Poilievre there. Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre made a deal to fight the bad orange man who threatens to save all those Canadian First Peoples in those treaty lands, in U.S. treaties older than Canada, older than the reserve treaties of the numbered Indian peoples from confederacies that were negotiated in the United States between the UK. You see, USA speaks Webster, so what happened to all the Canadian First Peoples that didn't speak Oxford English and they got double-crossed and double-spoke in their deals? The same thing happened with the United States. The difference is now you have a president named Donald J. Trump, President Trump, who understands the double-cross, double-speak. He understands he speaks Webster's English. He understands that his Americans were taken advantage by the UK Crown at the time, and they did not know about those confederacies that they certainly know about right now. Donald J. Trump knows this right now, and he's already been poking at Carney over it. He poked at Trudeau over it. None of the media is going to tell you. This isn't even made public, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Trump administration begins reaching out to all of these treaty peoples that Alberta secessionist, Alberta 51st staters haven't negotiated with at all. And I already knew this because in Alberta independence at the international level, I presented that to all the treaty numbered chiefs in the province of Alberta. All of them. And to win consensus, I had to make promises, guarantees. And after the election, I went about that and I've maintained my promise ever since. And it's universal across Canada. It makes sense to me, and that's why Canada, the 51st state, is the best deal for all Canadian First Peoples. Does not matter if you're numbered, named, Métis, or Inuit. In fact, the worse you have it now, like AKA these numbered people I'm talking about, that I've tagged in this Alberta portion, where we see Pierre Poilievre parachuted into. Now, Treaty 6 spoke up, but the Blackfoot Confederacy changes those numbered treaty designations that are new compared to America's treaties, and all the Indian confederacies prior to that. You don't get to rename them. US and UK won't accept that. They won't. But what will happen if Donald J. Trump wants to is, now that he knows that nobody in Alberta or Canada really negotiates in good faith with any First Peoples, he's probably going to say, you know what, we got screwed on the Louisiana Purchase, and we divided these peoples up because the UK was stronger than us then. They tricked us into a treaty too. They lied to us, said that this Hudson Bay made a deal with those Indians, and they didn't. Obviously didn't. They're speaking up today saying, no, we didn't. We didn't cede any of our land. We didn't give any of this up. And then Donald Trump saying, well, then you deserve a massive settlement. A settlement we can give you many, many times the shit show you've got in Canada. And we're looking at how they legally interpret you as savages, dehumanized people. They've thrown you off all their land. They've made you into poverty status. Well, we have a deal for you, a sizable deal. Now let's take all of those treaty lands. Let's look at that. Your confederacy, that's our American confederacy, still much older because it's who you were, who you are today, that they tried to take from you. We're going to give that back to all those people right across. We'll make a deal with you. We'll give you tremendous more lands back. We're going to make you American Indian citizens. You're going to be wealthy beyond all measure. You have tremendous natural gas and resources. Alberta tells everybody they're their resources. Saskatchewan says those are their crown resources. Well, if Donald J. Trump doesn't want to, he doesn't have to honor that treaty. That's not a Canada-US treaty. Those are UK-USA treaties. And he is President of the United States. Do you think Keir Starmer can take Donald J. Trump? Do you think Prime Minister Carney can take Trump? Do you think those countries together could take the United States of America? Do you think UK has much more to worry about with Russia right now today? Do you think that EU, France, or any of them are going to help Alberta, Saskatchewan, or even Canada for that matter? Or are all they tied up with Europe now? And again, if you were America and you were Donald J. Trump, what would you do to end the socialist fascism? What would you do if you couldn't get Canada the 51st state? What would be the next best thing that would be lawful internationally and the right thing to do? Well, that would be to negotiate with all those First Peoples who got screwed over. What happens to all those Albertan and Saskatchewanians? Probably off their lands. To be honest here, again, if you think this is out of left field, I ask you, please, I show you the overlap. I show you these same settlements with the same peoples in their confederacies in Montana and absolutely North Dakota. Those reserves are massive. Massive to 300 times the size of their counterpart, Alberta, Saskatchewan, same people reserves. Massive, 300 times the size, in fact. What do you think's going to happen? Do you think you know better, Canadians, Albertans, separatists, Alberta 51st Staters? Have any of you ever once reached out to any of the First Peoples? Again, I'm going to say to you, do you think Donald J. Trump, if he can't get Canada the 51st state, what do you think his next best thing is? Remember, rulers with rulers. And Donald Trump says, some idiot drew that with a straight line. I'm not going to do that. I have the treaties. I'm president. Nobody can stop me. I can wipe any treaty out I want. I don't need anyone's permission to do that. And then that means you're on American land, new American Indian citizens' lands. And according to Donald J. Trump and all of those overlaps, and this goes right across Canada, by the way, I'm only showcasing you what is a small portion, which is still huge. It would destroy Alberta and Saskatchewan forevermore. It would wipe out complete industries. You would say goodbye to Canada's LNG program. It's gone. If Trump was to do that and make a deal just with Treaty 7, you can say goodbye to all LNG. In fact, you may even say goodbye to a whole lot more. TMX itself may be in serious jeopardy. You know, that new line that's strictly for China. Could Donald J. Trump do that? Is that possible? If you were Donald J. Trump, would you do it? I ask everybody to share this video. Why is Pierre Poilievre parachuting right there in Treaty 7? Why? I put up a lot of questions. I put up some ideas of thought. If you were Donald J. Trump, with his tremendous power, in treaties that no American can tell him what to do, he's president-elect in a majority for the next 3 months, 3 years and 8 months. What would you do if you were Donald J. Trump and you couldn't negotiate the 51st state? Who would be the next likelihood negotiating people with to achieve a good chunk of your objectives in bankrupting that called Canada? What would you do? I showed you this alternative map. I showed you many new states of the Union expanded, including New York. If you think Alberta and Saskatchewan are devastating, wait till you see what lies in store for Manitoba, absolutely Quebec and Ontario, and the Atlantic provinces. You want to see Canada completely decimated? Oh, look at all those treaties that Donald J. Trump holds exclusively for himself. He can do anything he wants, and nobody, no American, can stop him. There's no Congress, no Senate to stop him. What do you think 342 million Americans will say when they say, oh, by the way, these are Canadian squatters on your new lands. We negotiated a deal with all of those named and numbered Indians directly. Yeah, we settled up. We decolonized it. Americans, will you volunteer to secure those lands? Will you help those American Indians? Oh, by the way, they've made a deal and these are your new private properties. All of these Canadians are squatting on your American land. Now, people can say this is all far-fetched, but is it? Is it especially with the Democrats? Is it with the American Indian and everything done in America and restoring that which is theirs, decolonizing? Is it really out of the realm as a second best solution? Now, Donald J. Trump could do all of this anyway with the massive crown lands if it was Canada, the 51st state. And the First Peoples of Canada would probably do a lot better and it would be all-encompassing. But if you were a treaty chief and you were promised 300 times more your traditional lands, meaning these people are now squatting on your lands, I could look at Treaty 7, Pincher Creek, all the way to Head Smashed In, Buffalo Jump, all of that. What do you think they would say? Or all of Banff, right? What would they say? They'd be going, gee, Sundre, Alberta, all the way up like a teepee right to Red Deer, and then all the way down on the other side of the teepee, all of Drumheller, all Treaty 7 Indian peoples from the Confederacy, the Blackfoot Confederacy. What do you think they would say if a good massive chunk of that was theirs? And Trump was saying, we'll give you upwards of a third of that. You pick your areas first, and the rest is for Americans. Is that a good deal? Is that a good deal? Will you guys accept that deal? Premier Danielle Smith, Mark Carney, get off our lands. These are our American Indian peoples, and we're sending in our military to secure those lands. Has anyone thought of that down the road? Has anyone ever thought of any of this? No. Because Canadians don't think like that. They think it all belongs to them. They're entitled, just like Nazi Germans over the Jews, just like the South Africans over those under apartheid. They all thought like that, but you go look at USA's history. USA dismembered all of that. They've done 84 countries along with the Allies, in conjunction with the Allies. Could Donald Trump do this today? If he can't get 51st state Canada, all of it, would that be the next best thing? Has anyone thought of it? And the answer is Absolutely not. But Donald J. Trump has already teased it out to all of you. Rulers draw lines. He doesn't respect those lines. He's got treaties older than the country of Canada. He's got treaties between USA and UK over what is now Canada. Who says he has to honor them with Canada? Who says the president has to? What if the president decides that he doesn't recognize those treaties, and then he's going to go back and say to all his American Indian counterparts who got major settlements in the United States and say, we're really sorry we were manipulated again by the United Kingdom doublespeak. We speak Webster's English. They speak Oxford's English. Just like you and your treaties, we got bamboozled too. We're ready to right the wrong. Can you help us negotiate with those Canadian counterparts, securing all of you back to your Confederacy, restoring you to what you were in your lands in these overlaps? Because I've canceled all the treaties. Can we make a deal? Maybe that's the deal Donald J. Trump can do much easier than Canada, the 51st state. And it takes all of the viable land, developed cities and resources away from all the Canadians. And they're forced to go up north where there's nothing, just like the First Peoples are forced to. Could Donald J. Trump do that as a next best thing? You got to ask yourself why Mark Carney why Mark Carney agreed to let Poilievre take that, and they're going to hold a by-election as fast as possible. Right there in Treaty 7, a place Pierre Poilievre knows nothing about, never lived there, but he's running in it right now. It's breaking news, folks. So I ask you, now I tagged a lot of First Peoples groups. Not all are big groups. It's your job to reach out to all the chiefs. It's your job. I have a whole list. I have a residential school First Peoples group. I could do that. I could send this out that way, but I'm going to give you all the chance to share the video and get it out to your peoples, get it out to all your chiefs, because if I was you, that's the negotiation I would do if it was my peoples. I would do that. I would totally do that in the face of what you're facing without any negotiation from any Canadians, none whatsoever, as it's always been. You are the most dehumanized people in all of North, South, and Central America. The absolute, currently and longest running dehumanized people. Can you believe that? Probably worldwide. I had the sponsorship from the UNSC. China was the one who sponsored residential school genocide. But the real crazy here is how you are legally run and led and forced to capitulate to in just Section 92 on such small lands without any access to real viability, none whatsoever. No self-determination, no self-government, absolutely no settlement of claims. It is the most grievous thing that you can't find in world history except for the Jews of Nazi Germany, or again, the South Africans in South African apartheid. That's how bad this is. You think Shantytown is bad? Go to a Canadian reserve. This is a